In this video, I'll quickly go over some of the generalizations of the Voronoi diagrams. So the first generalization is the farthest point Voronoi diagram. So the Voronoi regions is defined based on the farthest point. So for instance, this region, every point inside this region has this point as the farthest point. So therefore, the farthest point region of this point will become this region over here. And in particular, if you decompose the points of the plane into cells in which the points in the same cell have the same farthest point, then you get the farthest point Voronoi decomposition. An interesting property here is that some points might not get any region at all. For instance, these 3 points don't get any region. This is because there is no point in the plane for which one of these red points is the farthest red point. The next generalization is the higher order Voronoi diagrams. This is based on this concept of high order nearest neighbors, which essentially talks about the same set of k nearest neighbors. So this is a diagram that draws the second order Voronoi diagram. And so let's look at an example region. So any point inside this region has the same set of the first and second nearest neighbor. In particular, the first and the second nearest neighbors are this point and this point. For points over here, this is the nearest neighbor and this is the second nearest neighbor, and for the points over here, this is the nearest neighbor and this is the second nearest neighbor. But either way, for everything inside this region, these 2 points are exactly the first and the second nearest neighbor. So you could have potentially many more Voronoi regions here, because you could have many different sets that have many different subsets of the inputs that define the k nearest neighbors. And in particular, computing high order Voronoi diagrams is a costly operation, and you can't do it in log n time. A cool thing is that this actually generalizes the notion of Voronoi diagram, because a one order Voronoi diagram is basically just a normal Voronoi diagram. We could also generalize the Voronoi diagram by looking at different distance measures, for instance L infinity or L1. So this is the Voronoi diagram based on Manhattan distance or L1 metric. We could even try to look at Voronoi diagram of curves and line segments. For instance, this picture is the Voronoi diagram of a set of lines, line segments, points, and curve segments. But finally, we could even define the weird distance measures, and we could define the Voronoi diagram based on that. For example, I could have a shape like this that I have pinned at this point of the shape. To define the Voronoi diagram, I might just define the distance. So to define the distance between point P and Q, I would put the shape with the pinned point on top of point P, and I could enlarge it until it touches point Q. And the amount that I'm enlarging, the smallest amount that I need to enlarge, is I could define as a distance between P and Q. And I could define the region of Q to be the set of points of the plane for which, when I enlarge the shape on top of point P, I get to the same point Q. So you could define, for instance, a Mickey Mouse Voronoi diagram. There are many more generalizations in the literature. These are some of them, either the common ones or the ones that I think that are fun and interesting to know about. The reason these Voronoi diagrams are important is because once you compute the Voronoi diagrams, you could pre-process them to do many other things. For instance, by doing point location on top of a Voronoi diagram, you could find the nearest neighbor, or you could find the k nearest neighbors or nearest neighbor in some other distance measures.